Everyone in the fitness world is having the wrong protein debate, and nobody has told you yet. You either swear by beef as the ultimate muscle food, or you live inside your whey protein tub. Both sides sound confident, both sides have arguments, and both sides are missing something that changes absolutely everything. I spent weeks buried inside real peer-reviewed scientific studies, not fitness blogs, not supplement brand websites, not gym rumors. What I found completely shattered assumptions I had held for years, and I genuinely did not see it coming. Before I walk you through the science, let me tell you exactly where I personally stand without any filter. If someone forced me to eat only one protein source for the rest of my life, I choose beef. Not because it wins every scientific metric, but because beef is one of the most complete foods ever studied. It carries B vitamins, iron, zinc, and a food matrix that no protein powder can ever come close to replicating. The natural ratio of fat to protein in beef is almost perfectly aligned with what the human body actually needs. So, when someone asks me beef or milk protein, my instinct fires back with beef before they even finish the sentence. But here's what I have learned after going deep into the research. Instincts and data are not always the same thing. There are real, measurable biological differences between beef and milk protein that most people in fitness have never once thought about. Some of those differences genuinely surprised me, and once you understand them, your entire approach to eating protein will shift completely. Most people never even consider milk protein a serious competitor to beef when it comes to building actual muscle mass. When someone says milk protein, your brain probably pictures a cold glass of milk sitting on a kitchen counter somewhere. Or maybe you picture that tub of whey protein sitting on your bathroom shelf after another long and brutal gym session. Some people have heard of casein protein, but the majority of fitness people have no real idea what it actually does. Comparing milk protein to beef protein feels strange at first, like comparing two things that exist in completely separate nutritional worlds entirely. But that dismissive attitude is exactly what keeps people from making smarter, more effective, and more science-backed nutrition decisions every single day. So, let us actually dig into a specific study that completely rewired the way I think about protein sources entirely. There was a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and the way researchers designed it made all the difference. They took exactly 30 grams of beef protein and 30 grams of milk protein and gave each to separate groups of participants. Then the researchers did something most nutrition studies simply never do, and it is what makes this study genuinely powerful and reliable. They labeled the amino acids using isotope tracers so scientists could physically follow those amino acids through the human body in real time. That means they could see exactly where the amino acids traveled, how fast they moved, and what they triggered inside the muscles. This type of labeled tracer study gives us a level of biological clarity that most nutrition research never even comes close to achieving. And the result they found when they analyzed the data was something I absolutely did not expect before reading this paper myself. Beef protein absorbed into the bloodstream faster than milk protein, which is the opposite of what most people in fitness would assume. Everyone assumes dairy-based proteins are the fastest absorbing because whey has carried that reputation in gyms for decades without being challenged. But this study clearly and specifically showed that beef protein entered the bloodstream more rapidly than milk protein in direct head-to-head comparison.
That is a counterintuitive and genuinely important finding that changes the way we should think about whole food protein sources entirely. Now, both proteins triggered something in the body called mTOR, and I want to make sure you actually understand what that means. mTOR is essentially the master anabolic switch inside your body that controls muscle growth and protein synthesis at the cellular level directly. When mTOR gets activated, your body shifts into a growth and repair mode and begins aggressively rebuilding muscle tissue you broke down training. Both beef protein and milk protein activated this switch at roughly the same level, and that tells us something incredibly reassuring and important. Neither protein is dramatically more powerful than the other when it comes to turning on that core muscle-building mechanism inside your body.
But the timing of when specific things happened after you consumed each protein, that is exactly where the real difference revealed itself. The specific amino acid that drives the majority of muscle protein synthesis in your body is called leucine, and it matters enormously. Leucine is the most anabolic amino acid science has ever identified, and it is what isotope tracer studies track most carefully and precisely. Leucine is the signal that tells your muscles they have received enough protein and can now begin the rebuilding and repair process. When researchers measured circulating leucine levels in both the beef group and the milk protein group, here is what the data showed clearly. The milk protein group had leucine levels of 277 micromoles per liter circulating through their bloodstream after consuming their assigned protein source. The beef protein group had leucine levels of 231 micromoles per liter circulating in their blood during that exact same measurement window. That gap might sound small when you hear those numbers spoken out loud, but in the biology of muscle growth, it matters significantly. Higher circulating leucine means a louder and stronger signal reaching your muscles, telling them to repair, rebuild, and grow more aggressively right now. So if your goal is maximizing muscle protein synthesis in the early window right after eating, milk protein had a real measurable advantage here. Milk protein spiked muscle protein synthesis faster and more noticeably in those first 2 hours compared to what beef protein produced in comparison. Now here is the part where most people who skim through studies quickly would make a genuinely costly mistake in interpreting the results. If you only looked at the 2-hour data point from this study, you would walk away completely convinced that milk protein dominates beef. But when the researchers extended the measurement window and tracked what happened over the full 5-hour picture, something very important shifted in the data. Total muscle protein synthesis between the beef group and the milk protein group completely evened out across that full 5-hour window of measurement. This is one of the most important lessons about reading scientific research properly and not letting short-term snapshots distort your understanding of reality. Short-term data can tell a very different story compared to what the complete timeline reveals when you actually zoom out far enough to see it. The honest and complete takeaway from this study is that both proteins work well, but the timing of their effects differs in meaningful ways. Milk protein spikes muscle protein synthesis faster and harder in that early window, while beef provides a more gradual and sustained release effect afterward. That difference is not a reason to permanently choose one protein and abandon the other without ever revisiting that decision again in your life. It is actually a very compelling reason to start thinking strategically about how you combine both protein sources throughout your day and your training. Now, milk protein is not actually a single uniform thing, and understanding its structure is what makes the strategic approach genuinely click into place. Milk protein is made up of 2 very different protein fractions that behave differently inside your body and serve completely different biological purposes. Whey protein is the fast-digesting fraction that spikes your amino acid levels quickly and reaches your muscle tissue almost immediately after you consume it. Casein protein is the slow-digesting fraction that releases amino acids gradually and steadily across several hours after you eat or drink it. When you drink whole milk, you are naturally consuming both of these fractions together in one complete and intelligently designed biological package simultaneously. The whey gives you that rapid early surge in circulating amino acids, and the casein gives you a sustained trickle that lasts for hours. This natural dual fraction combination inside whole milk is the exact reason milk protein performs so strongly across that full 5-hour measurement window in studies. The whey fraction handles the early surge in muscle protein synthesis, and the casein handles everything that comes in the second half of the window. If you use protein supplements instead of whole milk, you can actually recreate this precise combined effect with a small amount of strategic planning ahead. A whey protein concentrate that still contains some natural milk solids will digest slightly slower than a pure whey isolate product would by comparison. Or you can simply mix a whey protein and a casein protein powder together to create your own effective dual fraction milk protein blend yourself. That combination gives you the rapid spike from the whey working alongside the sustained and steady release from the casein all at once. Then you can add some beef to that same meal to layer in even more sustained protein delivery that continues long after the whey peaks. Because even though beef absorbed faster than milk protein in the tracer study, it still digests significantly slower than isolated whey protein does separately. Beef will keep releasing amino acids into your bloodstream for hours after the initial whey protein spike has already come and gone entirely. This layered protein approach is genuinely one of the most underrated and overlooked strategies in the entire fitness and nutrition world available today. Most people eat a protein source, feel satisfied, and move on without ever thinking about how different proteins interact and overlap inside their body. But if you are truly serious about maximizing muscle growth and recovery speed, the timing and combination of your protein sources makes a measurable difference. Now, I want to be honest with you about something personal because I believe transparency matters far more than just telling you what sounds impressive. If I had to choose only one protein source for the rest of my life, I would still pick beef without a single hesitation. Not because beef wins every scientific metric, because we have already seen clearly together that it does not always come out on top, but because beef as a whole food brings far more to the table than just its raw protein content ever could alone. The micronutrients, the minerals, the B vitamins, the zinc, the iron, the food matrix, these things matter enormously for long-term health and performance. Protein supplements can give you amino acids and trigger muscle protein synthesis, but they cannot give you everything that whole beef delivers naturally and completely. From a whole food nutrition perspective and a genuine long-term health standpoint, beef remains the more complete and more powerful food choice overall. But from a purely performance standpoint, when the specific goal is maximizing anabolic signaling and recovery speed, milk protein has a real and measurable edge. And practically speaking, trying to get large amounts of protein exclusively from drinking whole milk every single day is simply not realistic for most people. To get 40 grams of protein from whole milk alone, you would need to consume an enormous volume of liquid every single day consistently. With that much liquid also comes a significant load of sugar and fat that most people simply do not want or need added daily. For many people, consuming that volume of dairy in a single sitting would also produce some very uncomfortable and inconvenient digestive consequences fairly quickly afterward. Milk protein supplements like whey and casein make far more practical sense than attempting to drink several liters of whole milk every single day consistently. They allow you to capture all the anabolic benefits of milk protein without the excessive caloric load and the digestive discomfort that would come with it. Now, let us move to the large-scale data, because one smaller tracer study, as powerful as it is, should never be the only evidence you rely on. There is a paper published in the International Journal of Sports Nutrition and Exercise Metabolism that every serious muscle-building person genuinely needs to know about immediately. This was not a small, controlled study with just 30 participants sitting in a lab somewhere having their blood drawn at specific intervals. This was a massive systematic review and full meta-analysis that examined 116 separate individual studies and combined data from more than 4,700 total participants. When that much data from that many independent studies consistently points in the same direction, you have to sit up and pay very close attention. Researchers compared 11 different protein timing strategies and looked at which specific protein sources actually produced the best real-world results for building muscle. And here's the headline finding that is going to genuinely surprise a significant number of fitness-minded people who have never seen this research before. Out of every protein source analyzed across all 116 studies, both milk protein and beef protein came out at the very top of the rankings together. These two were identified as the most effective protein sources for building muscle mass and improving physical strength compared to every other protein source studied. That is a significant finding because most fitness debates center around chicken versus beef or plant protein versus animal protein in very broad and general terms. But the large-scale data cuts right through all of that noise and says it with remarkable clarity. Beef and milk protein are the two champions. Between those two top performers, milk protein came out slightly ahead, specifically when researchers looked at actual measurable muscle mass accumulated over time and participants. The reason for that slight but consistent edge likely comes down to something called insulinogenic properties, and this concept is worth understanding clearly and simply. Milk protein, and especially whey specifically, causes a notable and measurable spike in insulin levels when you consume it after a training session ends. Insulin gets an unfairly bad reputation in certain diet communities, but around a workout, it can actually function as a genuinely powerful anabolic tool for you. When insulin spikes in the post-workout window, it actively helps drive amino acids into muscle cells more efficiently and supports glycogen replenishment at the same time. This is exactly why the timing of milk protein consumption matters so much and why the meta-analysis paid such specific attention to consumption timing windows throughout. The research found that consuming milk protein both before and after your workout was the single most optimal timing strategy for maximizing muscle building results overall.